guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Yvonne from Ginger Chick Rehab. So glad to have you back checking out what me and Chris are up to. So in today's video, we are doing 5 little tables. So we got some side tables, we got an end table, we just have those little multi-purpose tables that sometimes people just need a table somewhere. And yes, some of these tables are a little bit worse for wear, but once I got my hands on them and washed them afterwards, I knew that they had some good bones. So join us as we share the process with you all. So first up is this table now. It doesn't seem like it's anything special, but it's nice, it's sturdy, the metal's in good shape, the wood's in, it's okay shape, it's got some scratches, but I definitely know that I can take away some of that gold and give it a little bit more up-to-date look. Just a nice extra table. I'm going to go ahead and separate the table from the base, and like I said, the base is in great shape. I don't even need to repaint that. Now let's go ahead and remove these little stickers that happen to be on there along with the price tag. Now I've got some 80 grit on our Festool orbital sander, one because I want to remove all that orangey stain and the top coat that's on there, and I also want to be able to smooth out those large scrapes that are on the top of this. You probably wouldn't have thought by looking at this piece of wood that it had a curve to it, but you can definitely tell where the orbital sander was not getting in the middle that it is not completely flat. So I'm going to go ahead and try to flatten it out a little bit. And then I go back in with just some hand sandpaper, some 220, going to get in this middle groove here and then along those edges. Now it's time to take this little table from boring to something special. So I'm going to be using freezer paper transfers. So when you're doing freezer paper, you just tape it onto a piece of your copier paper. I just have a Canon inkjet, nothing special kind of printer, and I'm just using regular old gift wrap tape to tape it down. But you definitely want to make sure that you have your wax side out because that's where you want that wet ink to be. The image I'm using today, I searched Pinterest looking for reversed images that I could use as transfers. So this is what I found. So what I need to do is that I need to copy the image. Then I'm going to go ahead. I have a Mac computer, so I'm going to put it into my Excel program. That way I can size it appropriate to fit the piece that I have. Well, I'm just going to be sizing it to the whole piece of paper. Then I'm just going to hit print, and this is what it looks like when it prints out. So that ink is going to be extremely wet, so don't touch it. So I'm winging this one. I think that I can just eyeball, I can get center. I want it to look like an old piece of a crate anyway, so I don't want it to be perfect. I love that imperfectly perfect of an item. So all I'm doing is taking a scraping tool. I just happen to have a Cricut scraper, and be careful not to, sometimes that paper moves on you. If you feel more secure, you can tape it down. But then I'm just making sure that I'm transferring the image. First, I'm going to rub it with that scraper, and then I'll rub it with my hand. Now I'm very happy with that, how that turns out. Stay to the end of the video and I'll show you a fail when I did some viewer suggestions of how to make my ink darker. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and I want to give it a little bit of age. So I'm just going on that outer edge with the Waverly Antiquing Wax. And then I'm going to do a little bit of the Waverly Antiquing Wax along the center part, but not really so much all the way through the wording. And then I don't want it to be terribly dark. This is a very dry pine type of wood. So I'm going in with my watered down mixture where I have the Waverly Antiquing Wax watered down, and I add just a little bit of the Waverly ink chalk paint to it to give it more of a aged barn look. So yep, I'm just going to go ahead and just wipe that all on. Even though I pretty sure my ink is dry. I don't want to reactivate it by rubbing it. So when I'm going in with this watered down mixture, I'm going to kind of do more of a dab motion, not to rub it. I don't want it to accidentally smear. I think it's good, but I'd rather be safe. After that is dry, I'm going to give it 2 good coats of polycrylic to seal this in, do a little bit of steel wool sanding to make sure it's nice and smooth, and then finish it off with 1 more coat. That way I know that this is good on there and this top is sealed and ready to use. And it's kind of nice to have the frame be in great shape that all I had to do was clean it off. And the finishing is just to reattach the 2 together, and then we are finished with this table. Next up is this little table, and I'm actually surprised that they didn't just throw it in the dumpster, because look at how it looks. Yes, yep, I did pay $209, but once I got my hands on it, I felt like it was good and sturdy. Definitely looks like a piece that has been out in the weather, which is not good for wood like this. It's not the right type of wood. So I definitely know that I'm not going to try to take it down to its natural by any means, but at least I can even out the paint job, even out. It's actually not even warped. I'm surprised by that also, but I definitely want to get this wood nice and even. Take off what I can, but other than that, it's a cute little size table. And there's lots of staining going on with this wood that goes deeper. If I was going to maybe try to stain it, maybe try to bleach it, but for $209 and the price that I'll probably get for it, I just need to do the minimal work to make it look nice. After I was satisfied with how I got it sanded, yep, a good cleaning. It definitely needs a good cleaning. So some Superclean and some hot water. Get it wiped down, get any of the whatever it's picked up from being outside, whatever. There's probably a lot of things that this table could tell me and I probably don't want to know. Then after it's dry, I'm going in and I definitely know that I'm going to have some bleed through problems with just the way that this is. It's paint, it's stained, just a lot going on. So I'm going to go ahead and with some shellac, I'm going to give it 1 coat, let that coat dry, and apply a 2nd coat. This is going to even out the porosity, so when I go to paint it, it'll look nice and smooth. Now after the shellac's dry, I'm going to start with this piece upside down. I got my TrueCoat handheld sprayer with black onyx ready to use paint. So I'm just going to get this sprayed up, and being that it has these spindly legs, it's nice to have a sprayer. Now after getting it covered, we're going in with some polycrylic in a hopper sprayer from Harbor Freight to get that black paint sealed in. Now I really like to show off the details of this piece just a little bit more, so I don't think black should be its finished color. So I'm going in with my Kills paint and primer. I've changed my sprayer out, and so now, yep, we're having some white on this piece. After getting all the coats to cover on this, 2 coats was enough. The shellac definitely helped. It's beautiful in white. And now I'm going to go in with my little mouse sander and I'm going to do some distressing. Not heavily distressing, just like what sandpaper would. And if you hold it just ever so slightly on those edges, you'll get that nice sanding. It's just another way, instead of rubbing back and forth with sandpaper, you kind of just let the little mouse sander do the work for you. I'd like to go and give this little table just a little bit of embellishment. So there again, I went into Pinterest, I looked up some graphics. I was looking for that number, and I love this number 7 with that stamp. Even though when I copy and paste it onto my Excel program, I'm going to have to flip it. So I went and did a horizontal flip. So now I have the reverse image, so I can do that same thing with the freezer paper, but on this one I'm going to cut it out because I don't want the vintage edition. I don't know how to take apart a image like that, so I have to print it all out. I don't know if you can, but anyway, I just wanted that little number 7. So same thing, I'm just sticking it in this one little corner. I'm gonna go ahead and rub it on and let it transfer over. Now I'll go ahead and I will get this all sealed in using some polycrylic. Then after the polycrylic is dry, I will give it a light sanding so there's no texture and finish it off with some Varathane finishing wax to make sure that it's nice, smooth, and protected. For my third table, we're going to tackle this one. Now this has been painted already, not unfortunately the best job, so we're gonna have to deal with that. And I'm thinking maybe it was a spray paint. I mean, you never know. And then it's got a random screw in the side, and I'm not really a fan of the molding little pieces on there. They just look squished to me. So here's where I thought maybe it was a spray paint. It was not really reacting well to the heat gun, so quickly changed out to the sander and just had to sand it. If only those decorative pieces were as easy to remove as that screw. And of course I just thought, just take a crowbar and pop them off and they'd be good to go. But nope, it wasn't quite that simple, guys. I'll be darned, they actually were screwed into place. So actually Chris had to remove the leg to get to the screws that screwed them on. Well, who would have thunk it? So now I'm just filling in the holes with some Durham water putty. After the Durham water putty is dry, I can go back in, and as if this poor little table hadn't been sanded enough, I need to sand that Durham water putty smooth. I do think that this company is supposed to be good furniture, so anyway. So is it Bombay even still open anymore? So now I'm just going in, getting it cleaned with some Superclean before getting it painted. So now I want to even out the porosity, and you can see all those different textures going on. So to seal this piece in and even out that porosity of how the paint will take, I'm sealing it in with a couple coats of shellac. Now you could do this with a primer, but the primer I have, I would have to brush it, and just for the speed of it, I rather just use this can of shellac. My vision for this cute little table is for it to stay packed. So this is going to be its finishing coat of a polycrylic. After that polycrylic is dry, I want to go in and distress all these beautiful details. Now I'm going to have a little bit of problem because I know that some of that white paint is still underneath there. So I have 100 grit sandpaper, so when I get to a spot that may have a little too much white, I'm just going to have to push a little bit harder to get down to that natural wood. But other than that, I'm just going to be distressing all these beautiful features on this table. After getting it distressed the way that I'd like it, I'm going in with some fine grit steel wool, and what I'm going to do here is it's going to smooth out where I sanded it. It's going to smooth out the rest of the piece, make it sure that it's nice and smooth, and then it's going to open up that polycrylic for my next step. But before my next step, I created a whole bunch of sanding dust, so I'm just going to take the hair compressor and blow it off the piece. So now to take this black paint up a notch, I'm going to be using some Waverly Antiquing Wax. This is a wipe on and wipe the extra off, and it just richens up this black. And then I'm going to go ahead and reuse the knob that was with it. Even though the screw was too long, we definitely have a replacement for that, but just spray painting it black, and then we'll seal it in with some clear to protect that black paint. Then to add a little bit more visual interest to this little black table, this was my original plan. This decoupage paper just has been selling well for us. I have this leftover piece, so I definitely don't want to waste it, but I need to figure out which one of the wordings, because this is a small little drawer, is going to fit. So after playing around, I determined that the national is the right size. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold it in place, make a crease, and then cut it around, just so I know that I have enough to cover from side to side. Now I don't want to see that bulk of those straight cuts of this paper, and I know that I did not cut it completely straight. I'm just going in with my mouse sander and just taking the tip, just a little bit of that paper, and distressing it. That's going to flatten that out, and it's just going to make it look like when I apply it that it's been worn off with time. And then to glue it on this front, we're just going to be using some polycrylic. There's not too much to have to blend in here. The paper almost fits the front of the drawer, but I'm going to go ahead and sand it, making sure that there's no paper hanging over that will snag at anything. And then I'm going to go around those edges with some of that antiquing wax and just blend it all together. So for my fourth piece, it is this end table for $3.99 from the Salvation Army. I'm just really lucky that this Salvation Army does not have a lot of room for furniture, so they price it low to sell it quick. But you do see that it does have some water damage going on around the bottom part. I definitely love this detail, and it does seem to have pretty good bones. So now I'm just going to go in with some 220 sandpaper just to scuff sand this piece. It doesn't really look like it has too many dents or scratches on it. This is just going to help for my paint to adhere better. My hopes on the bottom of this piece is that the water damage is maybe just mixed with dirt, maybe just in with the top coat. So I'm going to go ahead and scuff sand this too and see what we've got. But as I'm sanding on it, we do have a little bit of broken piece. This is an easy fix, just some Starbond CA glue. Just squirt it in there, move it around, and then get the accelerator, the dryer, and in 15 seconds it'll be nice and dry and you can move on. Since I'm sanding the piece, I'll sand it smooth as I'm doing that. Now the drawer is in wonderful shape. I just need to remove the knob, get that spray painted up the same as I did with the other little table. I do love the details on this drawer front, and so I'm just going to go in and hand sand to scuff it. We do have a little bit of unevenness here and there, so I'm going to do that same thing of going in with that shellac to even out the porosity. So I want to be able to see the details when I distress this piece, so I'm going to go in and give it an undercoat of black. Yes, there might be a pattern going on here. Yep, going to go in and seal this in with some polycrylic. This just ensures that that black paint is going to stay on there and is sealed in. And yes, black and white are our classic colors, but they are what sells for us. So little side tables, definitely black and white at this moment in time. So yep, just going in with Kills paint and primer and getting this sprayed up now. So now it's on to distressing these pieces, and I really want to be able to see that detail. So when it comes to the black underneath, we always get these questions every video that we do. Yes, the polycrylic keeps the black in place, so when I go to sand it, the black is what you see. If I did not polycrylic that, I would just be sanding it up right with the white paint. But I also, being a hairdresser of 30 some years, I know how colors play on each other. So having 3 tones with the white, the dark, and the wood, I also want to see that in the distressing also. So it's just a personal preference, and it has done well for us and is still doing well. Now this is also another personal preference. You do not have to use a clear wax when you've used the Kills paint and primer, because it has primer in it and it can be a finishing coat. But one more level of protection, we like to add it. So if you stayed to watch all 5 of these little table makeovers, I thank you. We are now to our final one. Now this one is a little bit different only because some of the molding on it is not real wood, but this is in wonderful shape. We got this at an estate sale for $3. Yep, it's got some glue on the top, but other than that, I think it's an okay piece. And these bedside chunky tables sell really well for us. So as I was removing this beautiful hardware and taking out the drawers is when I realized that, hey, this molding is not real wood. It's not even particle board. It is actually plastic. But when you're at an estate sale, you see a $3 price tag on a piece of furniture that you know that sells for you, you snag it up. That came off easier than expected. You want to go in and do some scuff sanding. It does have a little piece of missing wood. I'll try to sand that smooth, but I think the shellac will even out that porosity, that we won't have to worry about that. But I have to kind of stay away from that molding because a lot of it, like I said, was plastic. It's time to get it all cleaned up after getting it all scuff sanded. Not only do I do the outside, but when I'm doing a piece, I definitely go in and do the insides too. This would be the first time as I'm cleaning the piece to get a view of this. Now this has some shipping pieces that probably were meant to take off that nobody removed, so I'm going to go ahead and get these pieces of cardboard and these large staples removed. And I think I didn't show that I had wrapped plastic around that other drawer, so here we are. Yep, I'm just taking some masking tape and wrapping. We have a roll of trash bags that I had thrifted. This has come in so handy for being able to spray and protect the inside of a drawer. So for this piece, since the molding is plastic, I am not going to spend the time to undercoat it in black. It's not going to distress well those pieces. I will do a little bit of distressing, but nope, we're just going to go in with that straight Kills paint and primer. I did do the same shellac on it to hope that it would help adhere the paint just a little bit better, especially on those plastic pieces, and to even out any of their porosity. Now for the hardware, that was some pretty massive hardware, but I absolutely thought it was actually just beautiful. So all I did is take some Barkeeper's Friend, a toothbrush, and scrub a dub on it to get it to be all shiny again. So yes, Barkeeper's Friend, if you can see that patina of the age that's not shiny and kind of dull and not very much fun. But I just didn't have the heart to paint this hardware black because I just thought it would just be too overwhelming since it's such a big handle. Let me just explain to you how I finished this one up. So I did a little bit of sanding to make sure that it was smooth, and then it did hit the little bit of the rim of the top and a little bit around the drawers themselves. So there's a little bit of details that popped, but I didn't want to sand any of the molding, being that it was plastic. I sealed it in with some polycrylic, gave it one more light sand, and now I'm finishing it up with some Varathane finishing wax in the natural, and then definitely let this cure a couple weeks before putting it in the booth, and it should be good to go. I'm very happy with my decision on keeping this hardware, just taking some elbow grease and a toothbrush and some Barkeeper's Friend and shining it all back up. I definitely think that goes a little bit better than black would have. So I hope you enjoyed today's video of making over 5 little tables. Yes, these are quick flips, as in they usually sell pretty fast if I can thrift them low enough. Yeah, they always seem to be a little bit needy, but that's why I group them together. It doesn't seem so bad when I have a lot of work to do. But actually, I mean, they had really good bones, so not too much gluing going on, fixing that little Bombay company, taking those resin whatever, they were just too crowded in there. So I just needed to be that industrial farmhouse look that I was looking for that little table. So yes, I know similar papers I've already done, but oh my goodness, they sell. So I tell you, I'm just unfortunately going to keep showing you what is selling for us. So it may sell in your area, it may not. You just never know. Every area is a little bit different. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video. Let me know if I have inspired you in any way to look at thrift store finds in a new way. And even, yeah, some of them I can't believe I paid for them. They should have been curbside finds, but we don't really have that too much here in our area. So thanks again for watching today's video, guys, and as always, if I have inspired you in any way, let me know in a comment down below. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And if you're new and you're checking out our furniture flipping for the first time and you liked what you saw, please hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know when we've uploaded a new video. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye.